In a world where the misted seas recently parted.
Is someone talking? Hello?
He is a man of action.
No, I'm lacing my boots.
He is a man of honor.
Thank you.
Coming this summer to a theater near you. Everyone's favorite action movie superstar, Aske Volkart.
What is a movie? What?
Thrill as he adventures through the epic plains of Mahone.
You're scaring me.
From a young age, everyone knew he was born for one thing and one thing only. And that's kicking ass.
Decidedly no. The facts are against you, my friend. Are you a friend? I assume. You know a lot about me. So, I do not kick the asses.
Using his mysterious connection to magic.
Okay, why do you know that?
He will lay low every obstacle in his way.
I need to get out of here, man. This is not okay.
On a quest for vengeance against possibly the very gods themselves.
Stop following me!
The mysterious wizard with a dark past.
Technically not a wizard, and also not a very dark past. I had a good childhood.
The darkness within becomes the darkness without.
Oh, that's really cryptic. It's scary.
Coming this winter.
It's spring.
To podcast feed near you. Quid Pro Roll.
Oh man, I'm gonna be in so much trouble.
Hello, everybody, and welcome, I guess, to an Alarian archive, where we sort of explain the characters that are coming off of Campaign 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the wonderful, stupid movie previews that we did for all the characters. And this is the follow-up where we actually introduce and explain who these characters are. I know we've done some deep dives into lore and stuff like that, and now we're actually going to get into the player side, which, of course, we have with me one of my wonderful and beautiful co-hosts of QPR2. Would you like to introduce yourself to the class?
Hey, everybody. My name's Luke. I also go by Brave on the Discord and other places. And for this season of QPR, I am playing Aske Volkart of Vinvalek, a wizard boy.
So he is a wizard boy, and he's from Vinvalek, which is a nation to the north. So he speaks with this pretty distinct accent.
It's true.
Which, thanks for that. I had not planned on Vinvalek having an accent, and then you decided Vinvalek had an accent. And it's like, well, all of them have to have this now.
The crazy thing is that I can code switch to this now, so I get I don't realize that I'm speaking in the Aske voice until someone points it out, and it helps because it's the Icelandic accent, which is just Irish, but you kind of saw off the peaks and the lows, so it's just this very even keel, sort of soft Irish accent.
So, what were you thinking when you made Aske? That sounds very interesting. Like, what were you thinking? But like, what did you want Aske to be when you started conceptualizing him out?
Oh man, so the original Aske was not a good person. In stark contrast to the current Aske, the original Aske was very much this firebrand. His whole story, this was before we had any lore. His whole story was that he was going to have stolen fire from an elemental entity and was using the power of flame to sort of spread his own particular dogma wherever he went. Very, very fiery cleric vibes. But as we kind of got into it, that shifted into hues closer to what really matters to me in and things that I want to talk about. And he started getting formed more around a sort of reflection of myself. You know, they always say like put like 5% of yourself into your character. And I would say Aske has ended on that mark, but started as if I was sort of looking in a mirror. When I was younger, I was, a wanderer, a traveler. I've been to like almost 30 countries at this point, just going all over the place. I did a wandering improv show back in my early 20s. So travel was a huge thing for me, and leaving home was a huge thing for me. And I wanted to really explore in a character what it would mean if I didn't do that. If I started, if I stayed home, if I decided to build a community, if I decided to, really put down roots where I started, only to find that I would have to rip them up later. What would that look like in a character? And Aske slowly shifted from this kind of like shitty, his original voice was like Axel from Kingdom Hearts, shifted to this very kind young man that is sort of like at fate's mercy, but still wants to wake up every day and be a kind and good person, and make the world a better place.
So when you were kind of working on him and building him, when we had first introduced the other cast members and the characters that they were building, did that affect the direction you took Aske in?
No, it solidified my choice for Aske. Because when we were originally talking, I had two options, and one of them was my character that I played during our practice sessions, Osprey, who was this old man who looked like Dr. Eggman, and his whole thing was being built around like perfumes and stuff.
I do remember that.
Yeah, this very silly like perfume magnet, with his own sort of tragic backstory. But as everybody started like talking through their characters and stuff, something that I realized was there a lot of the things that I would be bringing to the table with Osprey were overlapping, whereas Aske so clearly and easily fit into this space that it was a natural selection to just pick him.
I know that you and I had a lot of conversations about like how magic worked in the world, and that was like a really big thing, and how influential the gods were. Did that change how you conceptualized of him when we were in the early planning stages?
Yeah. In the very early planning stages, I obviously had no idea like what the magic system was going to be like, and so I originally built it around the aspect system within Fate. How everything has like a tag. Mm-hmm. And so his original powers were that he could steal those tags from things. So he could steal the strength of an oak for a little while and slap it onto something else. He could steal the sharpness of a sword and use that, which is obviously a very like sort of difficult thing to actually run with in a game.
Yeah, but what a cool concept.
Yeah, very cool concept, but finding ways to scale that like successfully in a game as opposed to a novel is a different story.
Well, because I don't ever want like the people to think that like we sit around and pre-write what we're doing, because we really don't. I mean, you guys are usually just as surprised at stuff I'm throwing at you as the audience is. But there's also a certain amount of like, no, I do need to know these following things and how they work, because I need to have a reasonable amount of time to think about how this character would react to this.
Yeah, exactly. I remember we were at MagFest last year, and I was grilling you on like the mechanics and like functionality of a soul.
Yeah, and I was sitting there, I was like, and as I was drawing Aske for the concept art, and you were like, that's too many doodads. And I was like, no, it's fine. And then we get like a few months in, and I'm like, why did I add so many doodads to this design? And you're like, if you had just focused on explaining the soul to me, Alex.
Give me my sweet knowledge, Alex.
Well, I'm actually, I've been very grateful to you because it has forced me to flesh out some more things that I had sort of just a passing concept of. And you're like, no, this is really important. I need more info on this. I'm like, well, let me like actually like sit down and make sure that I have a fully fleshed out concept of it. And I'm pretty happy with where we got. I think that we got to a spot that it all makes sense to somebody, probably.
That somebody is me.
And that somebody is you. Don't worry, we're gonna get your deep dive flower of life metaphysics conversation in another Alarian archive. I promise you that is happening, even though 90% of it I will be smiling and nodding.
I need to make a PowerPoint for that, honestly.
So what would you, if you had to describe Aske in like 5 traits for new listeners who are just starting out, what would you give them as sort of that 5-trait elevator pitch kind of deal?
I would say his topmost trait has to be the interplay of guardedness and intimacy. If he trusts you, he will never question that trust. He never has to even think about it. So for our party members, he doesn't have to think about it. They're his friends. He will go to the ends of the earth for them. If they like actually literally stab him in the back or something, he'll think, this must be part of some big plan. I should play along, as opposed to like, they've betrayed me. How could they do this? He will never think that about them. But if you're not in his sort of like trusted circle, he's very guarded about that. He's very protective of, the various traits of his identity. Obviously, like we've talked to his magic is very different than the standard, as people will see. And that, among other things, has led him to be very protective about who he trusts.
He's very all or nothing.
He's very all or nothing. And when you look back on his life, it makes sense, So that interplay, I would say, is definitely the top trait. In a few less words, I would say he's very helpful. He's not always gonna put something like other people in front of himself. He's not like completely selfless, but he is sort of like, all right, my friends are doing this thing, but they don't realize that we have to like get this thing done. Otherwise it's, it will be a problem later on. I'm just going to do that, let them do their thing, and I'm going to shore up the edges kind of. And I would say last one, top of my dome. He is very mercurial. He's very, you're never going to quite be sure how he's going to react to something. I do, because I know him and I've spent countless hours, so many hours, walking through like what he would do in a given situation and why. But he's quite possibly the most complex character I've ever made. And because of that, you're never going to really be able to follow and predict what he might do.
So one of the things that I think sort of makes the difference between a show and a normal home game is the level of in your character's head you kind of have to live when you're doing a show like this. What do you do to like get into Aske's headspace?
Oh man, so this is maybe a deeper convo than we might intend, but I've talked to you, I've talked to Scott, I've talked to Josh about this in the past, that I don't in my head, I don't really see a line or a difference between myself and like other aspects of my identity. It's you can have a convo with these things. And so a lot of it is recognizing that Aske is a part of me, you know, and if he's a part of me, then that's something that I can kind of bring to the fore. You know, whenever you're acting, I've talked about this on panels, and I've talked about this with others. Whenever you're acting, you know, you need to put yourself into that feeling. You need to actually feel the feeling that's going through your head. And when I'm feeling Aske, quote unquote, it's, you know, a very real conversation in my mind. When I'm like talking to him, I'm walking through it. You know, I'm being a confidant with him that he can like tell his secrets to, and just sort of simulating those conversations definitely helps.
And I guess finally, because we're going to do probably a deep dive later, but this was just sort of supposed to be an introduction to the character. What do you hope listeners take away from Aske in these early parts of the show? Obviously, we've only recorded, but so far we don't have like this huge developmental arc for this character, but where he's at right now, what are you hoping people kind of get from him?
I think what I want people to take away from him is that he doesn't show it in very blunt ways, but his deepest wish, his most heartfelt wish, is to change the world into a place that is kinder, that is gentler, that is warmer, and that is a place free of masks. He doesn't like it when people lie to him or intimidate him or try to like hide things from him. And
that's really interesting given how dodgy he is about his own identity.
I never said he wasn't a hypocrite.
Well, no, I don't say that as a like, interesting. No, like yeah. Legitimately, it's very interesting that is. So you probably foresee a lot of his development is going to be him becoming more honest with himself and with the world.
Yes. But listeners, this one is just for Alex. Aske needs to realize that he can't change the world. Aske needs to realize that if he wants to make the world a better place, he needs to change himself and inspire others to do the same. But you can't make that choice for them.
I don't know that I'm going to be able to facilitate that growth when I have yet to discover that myself. I also am not good with that, but regardless, starting with the man in the mirror, as it were, is there any final thing that you want to say before we sign off and people get to meet Aske for real?
Yeah. I would say that listen very close to everything that he says, because everything that comes out of his mouth is said with very specific intention. And those of you that pay attention will be rewarded later down the line.
Your advice to everybody is focus on me.
Yeah. feed my ego.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, Alarian Archive. Luke, as always, I am so excited to be going on this journey with you, both literally and figuratively. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Make sure you tune in on February 25th as we debut the new season of Quid Pro Roll.